everybody, and welcome to Decoding the WSL, the podcast dedicated to the stats and facts in the WSL. I'm your host, Tom Biccarino, and we're looking ahead to game week 11 and the double game week coming up. And alongside me, I've got Jacob Bernstein, looking forward to, well, quite a tough fixture coming up for Spurs this weekend.
Yeah, it will be. It's kind of weird. It feels like we've just come back from WSL football, but this is the last WSL fixture before the winter break. So yeah, I'm going to be craving my women's football over the winter.
I'm sure you'll be going back on the YouTube channel for the WSL and just flicking through the full games or something. That's what I imagine Tom does.
Yeah. It's going to be Christmas Day. We're watching Yeovil versus Liverpool 2017. Full match.
Who needs a King's speech when you've got Yeovil? As the famous phrase goes. Yeah, we're here looking ahead to the 7 games that are, the 6 games that are coming up this weekend plus 1 in midweek. Let's start with that one, Villa against Liverpool. This one obviously rearranged following the passing of Matt Beard earlier this season. Liverpool are still the only team yet to win in the WSL, but Villa haven't won a game at home yet. So it's a bit of a toss-up about which way this might go, Jacob. And it's, with those stats, it kind of sounds like it's going to be a draw.
Potentially. I actually didn't know that Liverpool hadn't won at home. That's a really good stat. I knew they had a very good away record, but I didn't know they hadn't won at home. A few weeks ago, I think this would have been a bit easier to predict. I think, but looking at the last couple of fixtures, I think Villa had 2 losses in a row, obviously against relatively strong and opposition in both London City Lionesses and Spurs. And also it's important to note Villa will be without Oceania Deslanders, who got a red card against Spurs. Whereas Liverpool lost to Arsenal last time out, but they have had some strong performances. Obviously, holding Arsenal quite closely despite conceding late, drawing to Chelsea, getting a draw beforehand to Brighton. And we spoke on the review pod about Bita Olsen, 4-4. Can she make it 5-5? Potentially. I'm gonna side with Villa for this one. I think it will be a close game. So I'm gonna go 2-1 Villa. But yeah, it wouldn't really surprise me if Liverpool got something out of this game, because I think they've shown some really strong performances. And that 2-1 also continues the trend of quite a few of Liverpool's last few games have been 2-1 losses. I think it could be another close one, unfortunately, for Liverpool fans.
Yeah, I think it's going to be such a close game. I really struggled to pick out who I think is going to win in this one. I wouldn't be surprised to see it be a draw. I wouldn't be surprised with a win either way, but I think the fact that Liverpool are still struggling to win, and yes, Villa haven't won a home game yet, but I think this could be the sort of game that you when you're playing against bottom of the league, that's the sort of game where you finally get your first home win of the season. I've also gone for a 2-1 for that reason. I did consider going for 2-0, but Olsen exists, so it's 2-1. That's what I'm going for. Tom, how about you?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting one. I'm looking forward to watching it, to be honest. I think maybe I'm slightly less hot on Liverpool for this one, because I think that their squad is so thin right now. And it's quite a quick turnaround after this Arsenal game. And then obviously they've got another game against West Ham away on the weekend. So I feel like it's a difficult schedule that they've got right now. They don't really have the players in the squad to manage it. I think this game could be won in the later stages with Villa bringing players off the bench. I think Kirsty Hansen is obviously a big player to watch out for. I completely agree that Bita Olsen's going to have her say. I'd be surprised if she doesn't score. I actually asked Gareth Taylor about the transfer window, because obviously a lot of Liverpool fans are thinking about what they need in January, and I said, how much do Liverpool need in this window to do in January? And he said lots, and that was before the injuries. So, there was a further question about whether he had received assurances from the Liverpool hierarchy, and he said he hadn't received any assurances, but that they were aligned in where the club was coming up short. So longer term, it's be interesting to see how the club approaches the January window. I think they need to be aggressive, but right now, obviously, I'd love to see Maisie Truman get some minutes. Only 16 years old on the bench. She would have been Liverpool's youngest ever player in the league, but she'd come on. on Saturday. I'm sure she still will be by the time this midweek fixture rolls around. But I think that Liverpool will put up a good fight initially, but I think that the minutes under their legs might just be too many. And they did get absolutely hammered by Aston Villa in Gareth Taylor's first game in charge. I think they lost 6-0 in the pre-season to Villa. So you just wonder whether there might be, obviously they've improved so much since then, but you just wonder whether there might be a couple of things just that Villa were able to exploit that they still might be able to. I'm going to go 4-1 to Villa for this one. So a bit, it's a bit harsh on Liverpool, but I don't think it's about the quality of Liverpool's squad. I think it's about the thinness of it, to be honest.
Yeah, it is quite a thin squad, and it's interesting. I didn't realise that Gareth Taylor had been quite so, I don't know, spiky. I think might be a good word to describe in his interview. But yeah, one of those that we'll see as it gets towards January if the club do something about it. I think this year clubs aren't going to be quite as ready to make that investment because of the lack of relegation threat. I think that any WSL team is pretty much going to back themselves against probably any of the WSL2 teams, to be honest, whether they're top of the league or third. So yeah, for the WSL's sake, I hope there is a bit of investment there because Liverpool could definitely do with a few more players to get on the pitch as well. Let's move over to Saturday's game. This is one that probably would have been not very interesting had yesterday's result gone the way that we all expected it to at Kingsmeadow. But Everton, having just defeated Chelsea, have now got Arsenal at home in their next game at Goodison Park. Everton have, however, as we mentioned in the review show, not got a particularly good home record. They have, in fact, lost all of their home games in the WSL this season. So that stands in good stead for Arsenal. And I think this might be one that I think Everton are really going to try and pile on the sort of success from their last game, but whether they actually can or not is another matter. I think this could be one where if Arsenal can get an early goal, Everton are going to have to do something. They can't just sit back and put in a fantastic team performance and be defensively resolute. They're going to have to come out and score, which they can do, but they don't seem to be able to do it at home much this season. So I'm going to be going for an Arsenal win in this one. I'm going to go 2-0. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 2-1, maybe a 3-0 or something like that, an extra goal in the game. But I would be surprised if Arsenal don't win. And Tom, hopefully that's not just me being a biased Arsenal fan. That is something that sort of resonates.
Yeah, this is a really interesting game, actually, because it's just Everton are on such a high now after that result at Chelsea. Like, it would be really interesting to see whether they can take advantage of that result. Because, I mean, before this weekend, you would have said it was almost impossible for Everton to get a win in that game. It just didn't even seem conceivable, really. And the fact that they were able to do that must give them so much confidence. And I think Arsenal are a side maybe lacking confidence at the moment, even in that win on the weekend. I think you're right about the early goal. I think if Arsenal can get an early goal, that'd be really important. But they also have to, like Renee Slegers was saying after the game, they also have to keep that momentum up and keep pushing Everton back and not let Everton have any chances or a chance to get into the game, not get complacent. I have a feeling that Everton might continue their good form and maybe frustrate Arsenal in this one. I think I'm going to go 0-0 in this game.
It's kind of the same thing. After Sunday, I wouldn't be overly surprised at that. Whereas if you'd have said that to me on Friday, that as in Friday just gone, that when Everton host Arsenal is going to be 0-0, I'd be like, what are you on about? What do you mean? Of course it won't be. Of course Arsenal are going to run away with it. But I mean, Arsenal didn't play particularly badly on the weekend, but Everton, if they can do it against Chelsea, why can't they do it against Arsenal? Chelsea are, I think most of us can agree, probably a better team than Arsenal still at the moment. So why not? And with Ruby Mace coming back against her former club, Jacob, she'll be wanting to put them in a performance.
Yeah, she will do. I really like Tom's predictions here in the last couple of games because he's gone against the grain. I'm going quite boring. You might sense a trend with some of my predictions. I've gone for a lot of 2-1s, but I think that just reflects the close nature of some of the games. I've gone 2-1 Arsenal here. I think it's really hard to. I think you really have to remember the last game and put kind of the form into context when you're looking at predicting the games. I think Everton will have a lot of confidence from that win against Chelsea. I think obviously Courtney Brosnan's now come into the side for the last few games after her injury. She was obviously playing the match in the game against Chelsea, so hopefully she'll be able to continue her strong performance. And yeah, Sam, as you mentioned, 0 home points for Everton this season, which I think will be really disappointing, especially considering this season was that kind of move to Goodison. I think maybe Arsenal at home is not the game to start getting points, and the game you'll count on to get points. But I think if they can start getting some home points, it will really help with kind of the morale of being at Goodison and making it a proper home. The reason I've gone Everton to score is Everton have scored in their last 6, so I think they'll continue that trend. For Arsenal, I think it might be interesting in terms of Arsenal team selection, who plays. We saw Case McCabe drop out the side on the weekend, which was perhaps slightly surprising. But I think always with Arsenal this season, it's kind of the wings will be interesting to see who starts. We've seen Caitlin Ford start a lot, but she obviously dropped to the bench in place of Olivia Smith, who was obviously fantastic against Liverpool, but also against Spurs when she came off the bench. So I'm wondering whether Smith will start or whether she'll play on the right instead of Mead. And the Arsenal have quite a few combinations that they can play there out of Smith, Ford, Mead, and Chloe Kelly, who we haven't seen start as much. But yeah, although Arsenal haven't been entirely convincing in their last few games, I'm still going to go with the 2-1 Arsenal win.
I thought you were going to say, I'm really enjoying Tom's predictions because it wasn't an Arsenal win. That's absolutely all I was expecting you to say there. But don't worry, we'll get on to Spurs in a bit. Let's move on to the one that I think is probably the game I'm going to be keeping an eye on most this weekend. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to watch any of them, but this is one that I'm going to be I'm going to have my phone out ready to look at the scores of this one all the time. West Ham against Liverpool. Obviously, two teams that are probably, in my view, the favourites to be finishing last in the WSL this season. This is going to go a long way to showing who that team is going to end up being. Liverpool have lost all 4 of their away games so far this season, although have only conceded 6 goals in the process. They don't tend to ship loads of goals. And obviously, West Ham, like we said, aren't having, said in the review show, aren't having a great time of it. They have conceded the most goals in the WSL this season. So I think, there's a little bit, well, I guess when you've got two teams that are so out of form and that are, pardon me, near the bottom of the table, obviously there's negatives to both, and it's a case of which team is going to overcome those. I'm going to sound a little bit stupid, given that Tom made the very good point of, I can't remember who it was actually, it might have been Jacobs, that made the very good point of how thin Liverpool's squad is. But I've actually gone for a Liverpool win in this one. I think they are the team more likely to come out as victors, mainly again because I just think Olsen is probably more likely than not to score in any game that she plays in at the moment. I think if Gareth Taylor's sensible, he'll do some rotation on the midweek game on Thursday, so that it's not just, for example, if he does want Olsen starting both games, maybe she comes off after an hour in the first one, and then they see how she goes in the second. That kind of stuff. But yeah, I think Liverpool defensively really good. I thought, especially people like Gemma Evans. Jenna Clark put in really great performances against Arsenal, and I don't think that West Ham are going to be able to do anything that Arsenal couldn't do. So if Arsenal could score 2, I think West Ham scoring none sounds about right to me. But Jacob, do you agree on that one?
I think this one's really hard to call, to be honest. I think obviously this is between 11th and 12th, so it'll be a really interesting contest. It's obviously hard to preview because Liverpool do have that game against Villa before the West Ham game, so I think that will have an impact on Liverpool, especially as we mentioned their squad being tight and also having played midweek, which is something that they're perhaps not used to, whereas West Ham will be more fresh. I think West Ham have picked up in the last couple of weeks. They got the draw against Leicester. They got a win against Everton, and then look, they were unlucky against United at the weekend. They could have potentially got a point if it wasn't for Dominic Janssen's brilliance. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw here. If I had to pick a team to win, I'd probably side with Liverpool. But I think it will be close. I think a 1-1 draw probably doesn't suit either team, because I think both teams probably need the win for confidence and to kind of get points on the board, especially Liverpool if they don't beat Villa. But yeah, I think it will be a close game, so I'll go 1-1.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think, the more I'm talking about the Liverpool midweek game, and the more I'm sort of erring, actually, maybe they won't do quite so well. But I don't know. I feel like they are a better team than West Ham, sort of thinking about their underlying numbers and their sort of general, probably more of the eye test than numbers, to be honest. I just, kind of get that feeling from them personally. But Tom, as a sort of second team supporter of West Ham, I'm assuming this is going to be 7-0 or something.
Well, I definitely do think I kind of disagree with you both, as far as I think West Ham are more likely to win this one, just because their home record is actually good, and they have, like, over the last season or so, and they have won this season in the league as opposed to Liverpool, who haven't. I'm finding it hard to get past the fact that Liverpool, like you mentioned there, Sam, about rotation on Tuesday or whenever their game against Villa is, they don't have a squad to rotate. They've got 13 outfield players fit at the moment, senior outfield players. Like, you can't rotate with that squad. You just have to play the players you have. And I think they could get to a point on Sunday where you're really running on empty. They're not used to playing 3 games in a week, Liverpool, and when they are, they've had a bigger squad, and it's been against sides like Sheffield United or Sunderland, who don't have the level of player that West Ham do have. And as much as Beta Olsen has been really good, which she definitely has, and I think she'd probably score in this game, I think you also look at Shakira Martinez, who has 3 goals in 3 games as well. You've got a really exciting striker there, and West Ham's form has kind of turned a little bit of a corner despite that United defeat of late. Having said that, I do think that West Ham have been their own worst enemy at times this season, and I anticipate them to probably dominate this game and deserve to win and not end up winning, or like a Beta Olsen last-minute goal or something like that, just like a bit like the Leicester game. I'm kind of siding with Jacob on the 1-1, but I think if anyone's going to win it for my money, it'd be West Ham.
What about the score?
1-1.
1-1. Okay, fair enough. Just because you said that at the end, I thought you were then going, but if anyone was going to win, it's going to be West Ham. So therefore,
no, I don't trust either of these teams, to be honest.
I think that is fair enough. Let's go on to Leicester against London City Lionesses. This one at the same time of 11:55 at the King Power. I don't know why they're 11:55. I'm sure there is some sort of rule around. I reckon it's going to be like something changes if you do something from midday, so therefore they do it 11:55. But I'm sure Izzy will be happy to see the most likely still on multi-view. This one at the King Power. I think LCL's game this week, obviously they lost against Brighton, but I think it's probably more of a blip than a sort of change in their form. Whereas I think Leicester losing to Man City and Leicester losing another game, to be honest, is probably more like what we're expecting from them. I think London City Lion. I think Brighton's actually the only team outside the top half that have beaten London City this season, and I don't see Leicester being the second team to do so. I think this is going to be another London City win, but I think Leicester will have seen what happened this weekend and a way that a sort of not as elite team has kept London City quiet and might try and do something similar. We know Leicester can be very good defensively, so I wouldn't be surprised to see this be quite low scoring, and therefore I've gone for another 1-0 away victory. Leicester to not be good enough to get a goal, but LCL to just about muster something through. I think they've got a few players that have the quality to bring something out of nothing. You think of people like Aslani and Paris and Goodwin, etc. There's so many high quality players in there that can produce a moment. I just feel like surely they can't go 2 games in a row without scoring. And yeah, someone's going to do something in this game. And Tom, after watching LCL yesterday, does that sort of, I don't know, not cloud your judgment, but does it sort of influence your decision about what you think the score is going to be this week?
I think it's a really interesting point you make there, Sam, about the way that Brighton set up like their back three, which is obviously the same thing that Leicester do. So they'll take a lot of like inspiration potentially from the way that Brighton were able to defend against London City. And I think, Leicester, it was an improved performance defensively. I think, they had some really solid statistics from that game against City. Is it Celeste Boreal? I think her name is. I might be getting that wrong, but she was really good. I thought it was just like getting up to that point where I think she'd have the most defensive actions, 19 defensive actions, most clearances, most interceptions, and then you get to a point where I think the ball comes into the box, she miscues her kick, and then you've got Bunny Shaw lurking behind you, puts it away, and it's just like that. Just those things just don't go your way when you're at the bottom, do they? Or like when you're on a bad run, and then it all kind of falls apart from there because they have to push a bit more forward and then leave the spaces, which is what Carolyn absolutely loves. They all the City attackers love. So I think they definitely got a bit of a blueprint from Brighton, but I do think that Brighton have a much higher quality of player in their squad. And I'm going to agree with you, Sam. I think it's going to be 1-0 to London City. I think London City will have enough in this game to get over the line, but could be a similar one to when Leicester played Villa and just kind of eked out that draw that they probably, on the balance of XG shouldn't have got.
It is always comforting when you give a prediction first and then someone else gives the exact same scoreline. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not an idiot. I do kind of know what I'm talking about a bit. At least we'll fail together.
Two idiots, Sam. That's us.
Jacob, do you want to be a third idiot?
I'll be a slightly different third idiot. I'm going for similar to you both in terms of the London City Lionesses win and a clean sheet, but I'm going to go 2-0. I think this feels like perhaps one of the perhaps easier games to predict, just because I think I had a look at some of Leicester's defensive and attacking statistics, and I think that it's quite worrying from them. They've conceded the joint most shots in the league with 149, and they've scored the joint least goals in the league with 6. Looking at the chances created, I think it's hard to put the City game as a blueprint, but they had 2 shots in that game, 0.1 xG, I think it was, and whilst that's only the case for the City game, actually looking at the rest of their games, it's a bit of a trend in terms of chance creation. They only created over 1 xG in 2 of their games this season. So, there's quite a lot of worries for Leicester, and they haven't won since match day 2. Whereas London City Lionesses, obviously disappointing with the loss to Brighton last time out, but I think London City Lionesses have a lot of quality. We saw it in their previous games against Villa and Spurs, beating teams that are in around them in the league, and I think they'll probably have enough quality to get past Leicester. So I'll go 2-0.
So 4-0 between the 4-0 between the three of us. Yeah, I think that's probably about right. I feel like we're all kind of on the same wavelength. Let's move on to, I guess, what is one of the later games. 5 minutes later, the kickoff is Brighton against Chelsea. Only one of these teams is on a winning streak at the moment. Obviously, that one is Brighton, but Chelsea have the best defence in the WSL, just 6 goals conceded. And I did notice, I looked at some of the sort of home and away form this season so far, and no team has drawn as many away games in the WSL as Chelsea have. They've already drawn 3 away games this season, which, I guess is kind of where they're dropping their points, really, isn't it, generally? He says after they've just lost at home. But Jacob, I'll come to you first on this one since I've come to you last recently. But yeah, how do we really see this one going? Because this is obviously 2 teams in contrasting form, but I guess your head says that it's probably Chelsea should be the better team.
Similar to you, I was looking at home and away form, and I was looking at Brighton's home form, and they've got a really strong home record. 3 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss, and that loss was a 3-0. A 3-2 loss to United. So yeah, really strong Brighton result. And yeah, as you said, going into the game in contrasting form, Brighton with a really, really good away win against London City Lionesses, and Chelsea with that surprising loss to Everton. I think from Chelsea's perspective, it would be interesting to see kind of what happens with Natalie Bjorn. I'm not sure there was much reported on that, and whether Millie Bright will then come back into the side as well. I think it's a difficult one to predict. I'm going to go 2-1 Chelsea just because I think Chelsea should have more quality to see this out. But based off of the last game and considering this was yesterday for us recording, it's hard to not kind of side with Brighton potentially getting more out of the game. But I think Chelsea should be able to see it out.
I think, yeah, I'm very much in the same kind of boat. I've gone 2-0 to Chelsea because, yeah, it's one of those that it's just the sensible thing to do. It's just that Chelsea are going to win the game. They're going to continue to not concede many goals. I think you're probably more likely to see fewer goals and like a 1-0 or maybe even a 1-1, to be honest. If Brighton managed to get something, they were quite good at the weekend. But yeah, probably 1-0 or 2-0. I'll go for 2-0 to Chelsea, but yeah, it just feels they can't lose again. Surely they can't drop points again, Tom, can they?
I'm feeling so contrary today. I think Jacob's going to love this. I have another feeling for this one. Well, it's going to be so funny looking back at this when all these feelings are wrong. But I think Brighton were probably the team that came closest to beating Chelsea last year when, like, as Dario Vidosic was very keen to point out to us, Sam, about the offside goal last year when they were 2-1 up. And I think they're going to cause Chelsea problems again. Yeah, I don't know. I think that Brighton are going to win 3-2. I feel like sometimes when it rains, it pours in these situations. Like you get that, you lose that first game and then suddenly you lose another one. And it's kind of like maybe a bit of a snowball effect and they need that Christmas break. But I just haven't been hugely impressed with them recently. But you never know. It could have the opposite effect. And it could be, maybe the pressure of that unbeaten record off their shoulders might actually help them to play more free-flowing football. But yeah, probably feeling a bit contrary tonight. So I'm going 3-2 to Brighton. And they've had some huge results recently against these big teams at home. Did they win 4-2 against Arsenal last year? They've got a great record at home. Sorry, Jacob, what were you going to say?
Sorry, I was going to make a quick point. Sam, have you ever considered doing like a prediction league where you look at all of our predictions and then see like who predicts the best? Just because I want to hold Tom accountable to some of these.
I wouldn't be predicting I think that would make the predictions so boring because we'd just be going. We'd get so methodical about it. I'd just have one of the betting apps up here just saying what the most likely result is.
I'll be honest. So I do a prediction league for the Premier League game, and I don't just go for the most sort of the best result every time, but I normally look at the betting apps to give me a bit of an idea of who's going to go where. And not everyone does that. And I think the guy that won it or came second last year doesn't. There's 20 something of us in it, and I tend to, and I'm 15th or something at the moment. So just because the betting apps say it's going to happen doesn't necessarily mean it will.
Fair play.
But yeah, maybe we'll do that after Christmas. Keep it, or I'll post it on socials or something.
Jacob when Brighton win 3-2, I'm gonna expect an apology on next week's podcast.
Oh dear, I won't come on.
Don't worry, I think you'll be okay, Jacob.
I'm looking forward to seeing Jacob posting on his story next week, just like something from the Notes app, written apology to Tom Maher. Well, if Tom's feeling contrary, I'm looking forward to seeing what he predicts for the next game. Also at 12 p.m, Man City against Villa. For me, this is going to be quite one-sided. Man City are the WSL's top scorers, 26 goals. No one's got within 5 of that. And they've got a 100% record at home. I think it's going to be a comfortable win. I'm going to go for 2-0 in this one. I think Villa are going to really go for the win against Liverpool in midweek because that's the much more winnable game. And therefore they're gonna need to rest some players against City. I think if you're going to prioritize one of those games, you're going to prioritize the Liverpool one, because that's one where they might slip up if they don't take it too seriously. Whereas the City game, they could really try, and it might be to no avail because City are just that good. So I think Villa, we might see a little bit of rotation, and I think City is just going to be comfortable. And yeah, 2-0 is what I'm going for. Tom, contraire.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one-sided as well. Probably Villa 3-0, I reckon. No, I think that I think it's going to be a competitive game. Natalia Arroyo has proven that she's has a really good in-game management, especially against the elite managers and the elite teams. She's given Arsenal and Chelsea difficulties, and obviously they beat Manchester United away as well. So, it's not going to be an easy game for City by any means. I do think, having said that, City have just proven that they've been able to get over the line in these difficult games, and I think they're going to win 2-1. But I feel like probably I should have been contrary on this one, because maybe one of these will be right, and then this is the one I wasn't contrary on, and it'll be. But I'm going to go 2-1 City.
2-1. Okay, so similar. Jacob?
I'm going to go 3-1 City on this one. I just think City are just that good, and I think both of you have spoken about it. I think Villa will probably try and target that Liverpool game, and then playing midweek will mean that they're just that bit more tired for the weekend. Although, having said that, look, Villa's away form is very good. Obviously, they did lose to Spurs away at the weekend, but that was their first away loss of the season. Before that, they had some really strong away results, including that win against United. I'd be maybe slightly concerned from a Villa perspective, just like where are the goals going to come from? Because although they have quite a lot of attacking talent, Kirsty Hansen is the only player who scored more than one WSL goal for Villa. She scored 4, and they have players like Ebony Salmon, who's actually one of the league's biggest XG underachievers this season. And they have Rachel Daly, and we've seen Georgia Marlick come in. So they do have that attacking talent, but just perhaps lacking the goals. Whereas City, they're in like full flow at the moment, 9 WSL wins in a row. And it would just be incredible for them to make it 10 and go into the winter break with that momentum and being 6 points or potentially more. If Chelsea drop points, clear of Chelsea.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good Christmas for Andre Eglerts. He'll be definitely celebrating if that is the case and leading the WSL by, well, I was going to say, I think they're 6 points clear at the moment, but it'll be even more once Tom's Brighton 3, Chelsea 2 comes in. Let's move on to the final game of the weekend. This one, at the moment, it's in for a 2:30 start, but the last game at LSV didn't start on time, so we'll wait and see. Man United hosting Spurs, and this is, well, I was going to say the Grace Clinton derby. She's not even in either of them anymore, but both of them will be remembering how good she used to be when she played for them. I think that as good as Spurs have been so far this season, I do think this is going to be a relatively a tough game for them. I think it's going to be quite a professional job. Tom, you made the point in the review show that not many teams go to Man United and come away with anything, never mind a win. And yeah, I think they're so defensively resolute. I think there's the odd Shakira Martinez lob overhead kick that might do them. But other than that, with Valentinus Joyce back as well, I think this is probably going to be a clean sheet for Man United. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get a couple of goals. So 2-0 was a pretty easy prediction for me. Wouldn't be surprised if Spurs score, but I think the probability is that they won't. Not for lack of trying, but just because Man United will be very good. I'll come to Tom first so that we can finish with the Spurs fan in the Spurs game.
I didn't say it at the time, but I'm going to just say how much I enjoyed Jacob's soliloquy about the game earlier on Tottenham. And I saw that moment where Martin Ho turned around and the passion of it was really something. And I feel like this game is going to be like, you say the Grace Clinton derby, this is the Martin Ho derby. So I feel like he might have something up his sleeve against Mark Skinner. This is going to matter that little bit more, I think, to both of these managers. There's been a lot of talk about who did the tactics, all of this kind of stuff that comes out. And I think Mark Skinner's proven he's a brilliant tactician. But, there was all of that, like when they kind of struggled a little bit after Martin Ho initially left, that how much of a role was he having on United's success? And all of that's going to play into this game. I think Tottenham have surprised me at every turn this season. They, in a good way, the fact that they could end this year potentially second in the table, especially if my predictions come true, second in the table, and in the semi-finals of Cup, that is amazing, really. Like to even have that as a possibility, even if it might not come true, compared
While
to
still
where
doing
they
well in
were in
Europe
May,
as well.
it's just amazing, So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting, and maybe United have a really, really big test midweek against Lyon as well in the Champions League. That's a huge game for them, and they've not quite got the thin squad that Liverpool do, but it is a thinner squad, and we've seen them struggle against good sides after Champions League games already this season. So I think that Tottenham are going to get something out of this game, and I think 1-1 is what I'm going for.
Yeah, the Martin Ho point is a good one as well, and I thought as you were saying it as well. There's also Laurent Chamier, is used to be the analyst at Man United, had been there for a few years, and he's now the Spurs assistant manager. Moved over, I think, during the summer. So yeah, there's a few people at Spurs that know a bit about Man United. Jacob, do you think that's going to be enough for Spurs to be able to get something out of this game?
I like Tom's optimism, but I don't think so, regardless of how good we've been. I think I'm
That's
really
a proper
looking
Spurs
forward to the
fan right
game,
there.
though. I know. I'm looking forward to the game, though, especially because we actually play United away the week after in the Subway Cup quarterfinals. So having 2 games against the same opposition within 2 weeks is obviously really interesting. I think if you speak to a lot of Spurs women fans, I think you'll find that actually there's a massive rivalry between Spurs women and United women. I think that all stems from in summer 2024, Spurs obviously had Grace Clinton on loan, and then, to be honest, I thought Grace Clinton would sign permanently, and then she ended up going back to United, and Celine Bizet obviously ended up signing for United. So there was a lot of tension at the home game last year when Spurs were at home. There was a lot of booing, a lot of tension in that one. And yeah, obviously with Martin Ho coming, I think there was an article in The Athletic that came out, I think it was last month. It was a really, really well-written article about Spurs women and about the process taken to hire Martin Ho. And it just went a bit behind the scenes and talked about kind of Martin Ho's appointment. And there was a really interesting point. I actually can't remember it exactly, but it was something about Grace Clinton calling up to ask someone whether Martin Ho had actually signed for Spurs. So there was, yeah, it was just, if I'll try and remember what the article was, but it was a really, really, really well written. So yeah, I think it'll be an interesting game, especially with that tactical battle between Martin Ho and Mark Skinner. And for Spurs to be within a point of United nearly halfway into the season is really impressive. But I do think United will have too much of Spurs in this one, so I'm going to go 2-1 United. And I don't think that's anything to knock Spurs and our strong start to the season. I just think United will have the better of us.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough as well. I think that it's going to be we know it's going to be a tough battle for Spurs, whatever comes their way. And yeah, at least there's some optimism, even if it's not from the Spurs fan for this weekend. But they are, well, I was about to say they are the 6 games because that's what I normally say, but they are the 7 games coming up in the double game week. It's a double game week, obviously, in Aerial Fantasy as well, which is where we're going to move on to next, and kind of our top picks coming up for game week 11. So I haven't really decided yet because I haven't, to be honest, had enough time to do proper research on it. I'm looking at probably keeping Bunny Shaw or keeping Rebecca Knack, who is still a visionary, by the way. She's still only at like 1.1% owned. And obviously Casper as well. I'm going to keep the hat trick of Man City players. Contemplating bringing in Anna Sandberg because she is doing well at Man United, and I think they are going to do well this weekend. Definitely going to be bringing in, though, Betta Olsen. I think she's one that I haven't decided yet, but I might even captain this weekend because she's got the double game week and because she's got such a sort of rich vein of goal scoring form at the moment. The other option is probably either Bunny Shaw or Becca Knack, because I think City probably will keep a clean sheet this weekend, and Bunny Shaw, the majority of her goals have come at home this season. I think 5 of the 8. So she's on, I think, probably about a goal a game, if not a little bit more than that, sort of per 90 kind of thing. So Bunny Shaw is probably a safe bet, but Better Olsen has got the double game week. So I'm a little bit undecided, but I think if I had to pick right now, it'd be Olsen taking it. Some of the other players that I've sort of got in my team as well, I've still got with Moy and Caldente from Arsenal, got a couple of LCL players. I might even put Sangare in this week. She's obviously only 4 million. And with Bjorn and Bright both not playing, I thought they were immune from Bomb Pastor bingo, but apparently not. Tom, I don't know if you've given much thought for your team yet so far.
I think just to clarify that point on Bjorn, I think Bjorn was injured. I think Sonia Bonpastor said in a press conference, I believe, I'm not 100% on that, but I believe that's why she missed out on the squad. Yeah, I have already given it some thought. I think what people should bear in mind is that after this game week, you'll have unlimited transfers for the winter. So my advice would be to dead end your team. If you have a player who you want to keep or you want to have in your team, but they're really expensive and don't have the best fixture this weekend, use those funds, get rid of them, I think, because, you can just bring them straight back in. So, with that in mind, I think, I don't have Aggie Beaver-Jones anymore, but she's one I'd be looking to shift because she's costing a lot and it's not the best fixture that Chelsea have. I definitely think Beta Olsen, still a visionary as well, I believe. Get her in your team. I think she's a must-have for this week. I actually might even triple captain her with the double game week this week.
I was just looking at my team thinking that as well, that triple captain could be an option.
Yeah, I mean, I do think sometimes a double game week can be a bit of it can lull you into a false sense of security because players can get more points in obviously you look at Rebecca Kanak or Bunny Shaw, even in a double game week, players probably aren't going to get that many points. So be cautious about that. I certainly wouldn't triple captain any defender from either Liverpool or Aston Villa, but I'd certainly be looking at Hansen, 2 games. She scored against some big clubs this year as well. And obviously Liverpool haven't, I don't think they've got even a point away from home yet this season. So, that's something to think about, something to consider. I'd certainly be looking at Aston Villa and Liverpool players because they have that extra upside in having 2 games over the next week or so. And then just to bear in mind that obviously unlimited transfers coming soon, so have some fun with it.
Yeah, the unlimited transfers is a very good point. I forgot to bring that up. Over the winter break, which is very good that they're doing that again because I think that really helps.
Thank you, Izzy.
Thank you, Izzy. Thank you for putting that in. Despite the fact I don't think it's actually her decision, but she'll get the credit. It's fine. I'm sure she'll pass it on. I'm sort of veering away from Villa a little bit. I've still got Kirsty Hansen in, and I probably won't take her out because she's already there. But I can't see any Villa players getting that many points away at Man City. So for me, the double game week doesn't really benefit that much for Villa. I think they'll still do well against Liverpool, but the City game I think might be a step too far to be getting many points. Jacob, what are you looking to do this week?
Yeah, I'm very happy that there's unlimited transfers after this week because my team is a bit chaotic and it will continue to be chaotic after this game week because I played the wall, and because I'll bring in some Liverpool and Villa players, my team's going to be a mix of really heavy defenders from the top teams, Liverpool and Villa players, and then I've got Bjorn who's injured, Van Domselaar who's injured, Tamberg who's injured. So my team's going to need a bit of an overhaul once those unlimited transfers are in place. I think I'd echo what you two have said. I think the main 2 picks from Liverpool and Villa are Kirsty Hansen and Beta Olsen naturally. If you want to go slightly different, For Liverpool, difficult to say. Maybe Mia Enderby could be a good pick. For Villa, Chastity Grant and Ebony Salmon could be good picks, although, as I mentioned earlier in the pod, potentially lacking some clinicality. And then, to be honest, I was really close to bringing in Des Landers because I think she was a visionary, but obviously she picked up a red card against Spurs. But the Villa defence has been strong, so Anna Patton could be a good pick for the double. The only additional thing that I would add, I don't think I'm going to do this just because of transfers. I don't have the players to bring in. But I really like London City Lionesses' fixture against Leicester. So I think the usual London City Lionesses players like Aslani and Paris, I think could be good picks. And Sam mentioned Sangare, cheap defender, 4 million. So I think that could be a good pick as well.
Yeah, I've got Freya Godfrey and Aslani in my team at the moment, and although it was disappointing seeing both of them blank at the weekend, they're definitely staying in because I wouldn't be surprised if they do manage to get something this weekend.
I just wanted to mention 2 other players that I think. Well, I brought in Yamashita last week, and maybe you don't want to use up your City player on Yamashita, but she is 4.5 million, and Kiara Keating is injured at the moment, so I think she's probably quite solid in that position. And then also, I think my other transfer might be Shakira Martinez. One-off game at home against Liverpool, scored 3 in a row. I think it could be worth a 1-week punt.
Don't hate that. Yeah, probably one that you'll take out when the sort of unlimited free transfers come in. But
another looping bicycle kick. Surely that's worth a bonus point.
If she scores another looping bicycle kick, that actually, I was going to say it deserves it, but she won't be in my team, so it doesn't. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us today for the preview. If you aren't already, do make sure to follow, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and if you're not doing so already, go check us out on YouTube because we are in the glorious Technicolor on there. But other than that, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Tom. And we'll speak to you at the next one.